And timing wise, if we wouldn't do the deer drive until winter, we would miss the opportunity to,
We would have wanted to do it a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago.
right?
Well, there's snow coming. That's what they're saying anyway.
What about the grant, Jaden?
We did not receive the grant.
Nothing.
I have some information for you on that. I did talk to the DNR, and I asked them what was the reason that you guys didn't receive the grant, and they score your application, and you scored 60 points, and I don't know what the total points were, but the most that were scored out of all the communities that applied was 125. If you would have scored 85 or more, you would have gotten the funding. I have some recommendations, and keep in mind, this isn't just for deer, this is also for goose, and you guys have us do roundups every year, so you can tap into that to add to this. One thing that you don't have in the city, which I recommend, it'll give you 10 points just like that for this application, is a no feeding ordinance. For the geese and for the deer in the parks. Now, if you had a no feeding ordinance in those locations, doesn't necessarily need to be citywide, but in those locations where you don't want those deer fed and the geese fed, you know, those parks where the geese are, then, I mean, that's 10 points right there.
Chip, will we have to just post it in the parks and the areas, or just have an ordinance regarding?
Well, it says a no feeding ordinance.
The DNR is probably gonna want the ordinance, John, because it's stronger.
Because Washington County has no baiting allowed in Washington County,
Right.
correct? Correct?
Yeah.
So we're not allowed to do any baiting in
So you-
the city of West
And it
Bend.
might not have been mentioned in the application, so
That's something,
And someone from Madison reading this, John, might not.
yeah,
They might be aware of it, but not aware
yeah,
of it.
exactly, yeah.
We don't have an ordinance, don't, we
Yeah.
don't, I guess.
but there's a ban in the
There is a
county,
ban,
yeah.
yes.
So there's no feeding ban, but for Canada geese, there's not. So that would be something that you might want to recommend to add. You know, it says, let's see here, go back to the, there's a couple things you can't do anything about, but what has been, have you had any beach closings from Canada Goose droppings? Have you had
No.
any, what's the number of car deer collisions in the city?
I don't have those numbers, but they're not skyrocketing. It's like
Okay.
30 a year or something like that.
Okay.
They're there, but not,
Okay.
The tough part of having a deer versus a car in the city, city or any municipality where you've got a 25, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, you have an opportunity to control the vehicle from not hitting it. Now, if you're out in the county, you're doing 55, 60 miles an hour, and you got a deer out, darting out in front of you, the chances of hitting that deer are pretty good.
That's
And I always say that's kind of misleading,
a little bit.
because of the fact that I could have hit at least 4 or 5 deer already
Oh, I
in the
didn't.
last 3 weeks. They just looked at me. And
Like
I'm
you
like,
were speeding.
yeah, I slowed down and then let them cross.
Sure. And like the goose, scenarios, I like to think we do a pretty decent job already to control them, and then obviously work with your team.
The one thing that was, I'm sure that wasn't, I don't even think geese were added into this application, it was just for
They
deer
probably
primarily.
weren't.
So if we added geese into here, and I can certainly help you with this next year, review it or whatever you want, but there's a couple other things, there where you gain some pretty significant points here, which I'm sure you already do. Habitat modification for Canada geese. Are you doing stuff near the harassment, scare devices, barriers, education, those type of things. Those all get a point, which add into this, which could get you quite a few points. Public hunting, which you had in the past. Nest and egg removal, I don't know if you're doing any nest and eggs.
We have.
So that one, that would get you 2 points right there, which, that's 10 more points. So, I mean, all these things are adding up. Another thing you can't do, economic need, that one's just based on the municipality and, household income, so there's nothing you can do about that one. But the next one is, cost effective, let's see, long-term or short-term projects, long-term lasting solutions to nuisance wildlife populations or product as results for only short-term. So we could, argue that, cost effectiveness, you got a point for that. And then a project is part of a comprehensive array of techniques being used to address a nuisance or damage problem versus single method approach. They gave you half a point for that one, you probably could get a full point, but all these little things, can add up, and I think we can get you 20 or 30 more points where you'd be in the running to get money. The bad thing about this is there's only, I think, $25,000 available out there, so not many communities get this. Out of, I think you were 11th on the list that I saw, there might have been some more, but I think only 6 or 7 communities got funding for goose/deer management. But again, I can help you try to up those numbers a little bit and maybe help you get some of the grant funding. And one of the tiebreakers, if you end up tying with somebody, this works to your benefit. The municipality received a previous grant or has not. If you didn't receive the grant, then you get a point, and that puts you up above somebody else. So if you're up against another community and you score exactly the same, and it's whether you or them get money, they receive the grant, you have it, then you get a bump and would get the money. So, but I would be more than happy to help you guys fill that out next year so that it works to your benefit. And there's no guarantees, it's based on everybody and what they submit, but I'll certainly help you to try to at least bump those numbers up a little bit and make it more in the running to get funding to help offset the costs.
If we do it again, Chip, timing wise, the December start would have been problematic had we received the funding. Is that, after being through it a year now, is that something that waiting on January would be?
Well, that's a good question. They don't fund the whole thing, they match. So it's a 50% cost share. So if the agreement was for $9,002, which it was, they would only match $4,501.
Right.
So, if we would basically, then our money would be started in December. And I would say that you won't receive a bill. If we started towards the end of December.
She was pretty clear with me on the phone when I talked to her about anything pre-grant award in January would not be.
Okay. Well, we can certainly start in January. I mean, that's not a problem.
I don't know if program-wise that would be too much of a detriment or not. It doesn't seem like it. You only did a couple of events in December.
And I don't anticipate as much effort being necessary next year with the numbers knocked down. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and next year you see 30 deer in each park again. I mean, you just never know what happens with immigration from outside locations. They might, move right on in. So, but I anticipate that it would be less effort next year. So I think that if we started in January, we could block off January, February, and the beginning of March to, do the effort. So.
Question for you, Mike. I've had people tell me that Bicentennial Park, there's 15, they'll count 15 to
Sure.
20 deer in their backyard. Is that still heavily populated yet?
Absolutely, and part of that is the condominiums and their bird feeders and things like that, where those deer, they basically bed in the park, they walk across the road and feed, they go back, so.
All right.
No, that's also part of the Regner Park herd, is it from Bicentennial, Silverbrook Parkway into Regner Park?
They're the ones that more than likely go through your area, right, Chris?
We live 2 doors apart and we have 4 to 5 deer every night, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
That might be something to maybe just think about Ridge Run Park for sure again, and think about throwing in Bicentennial Park.
Well, I guess, I don't wanna jump ahead or whatever, but, to start on other properties, additional properties, I think is great, as long as USDA has time and the city has money. But again, I think, I'm gonna jump on what Chip already mentioned, we focus on these 2 properties again for a second year, And
And
then, and then year three, you
Then
know,
we'll-
long-term plan, we need to incorporate bow hunting
Yep.
again.
that makes
And,
sense.
you know, we don't necessarily need to talk about bow hunting again tonight, but, you know, something long-term, where I think we need to loosen the strings on these hunters too a little bit. I think we had too many guidelines for them, which is fine, I mean, we renew it too as a committee and things like that, but, I would focus, again, maybe on the two properties. To start at Bicentennial and Silverbrook Parkway, absolutely, there is definitely a population in there. We removed another roadkill this week over on 18th and Chestnut,
Oh, yeah, I saw
Oh, yeah.
it out there, yeah.
so, I mean, and it's common through there, it's very common.